Hi, my name is Marisa Guerrero from Debbie's Bloomers in El Paso, Texas. Today we're going to talk about a technique called a spiraled hand-tied bouquet. It's a really important technique to learn for making bridal bouquets, but it also has applications when making vase arrangements. The first thing you need to do when making this bouquet is clean your flowers. So we're going to take off any foliages that are below the bind point, and we're going to open up the flowers. With these carnations, we use our finger and our thumb to open up the bloom. So I've already done that to about 2 dozen carnations. So let's start making the bouquet. Our first flower is going to be placed between our thumb and our first 2 fingers. We've got to determine where our bind point is going to be on this stem, because that's going to make a difference in how large our bouquet is. If we hold really high, we're not going to have a very big bouquet. If we hold quite low, we may have a bouquet that's so big we can't manage it. So for this, maybe 4 inches below the bloom of the flower is going to be the perfect size, or the perfect length. Our next flower is going to get placed with the bloom to the left and the stem to the right of our first placement. And that's going to continue with each flower. Now, if you're left-handed, you're going to be holding the flowers in your right hand, and so you'll want to place the blooms to the right and the stem to the left. So just reverse it if you need to. Now, always bloom to the left, stem to the right. If you get to a point where you'd like to, you can keep holding and turn that bouquet. Remember to turn it as the spiral goes. So we'll keep placing these flowers in there. They're nice and open. This is a gorgeous carnation called ecstasis. It's a really pretty purple. It's kind of got some hints of pink in towards the middle of the petals. And then it's got that great gray undertone. We know purple is the color of the year, ultraviolet. And we know grays have been really popular. We see how popular seeded eucalyptus and succulents are in all of our bridal work. So we're going to keep placing those flower stems, turn if needed. We're almost done, just a couple more stems. Nobody gets this right the first time, so don't worry. If you need to practice and practice and practice, carnations are the perfect flower to practice with, because it's just one bloom on the stem, and so you don't get them all mixed up like you would if, say, it was a lily. So I like carnations to learn with. Now, when you make a spiral, you have the opportunity to pull stems in and out, so you can get them just the right placement. And because they're in that spiral, it still holds really nice and tight. Where if you were to do a more parallel placement, you might have a little bit of a harder time getting the stem or the flower head in the right spot. Now that I've made this bouquet, you can see it's pretty and it's round, and this guy needs to go in just a little bit. We need to finish it off. My favorite way to finish off bouquets is to take a length of bind wire. This is just a paper covered wire, and I'm going to take about 5 feet of it. Make a loop at one end and place that loop over my finger so that I can hold it. And then I'm going to wrap the bind wire around the bind point of my bouquet. When I get to the end, I'm going to take the end of that bind wire and stick it through the loop that I was holding on to, and then pull back against it. This gives you a really nice tight point to hold your flower bouquet. You can see it still has a little bit of movement, but all of my stems are in place and they're not going anywhere. Cut that if you need to. If it's going to be a bridal bouquet, of course you'd want to finish it off with some really beautiful ribbon. That guy snuck in there. So we've got this beautiful bouquet that's spiraled all the way around. We want to cut the stems so that they're the right length. For me, if I were to be making a bridal bouquet, I want to have about 2 stems with maybe 2 hand lengths worth of stem with maybe 1 inch at the bottom. So we need to cut this bouquet just a tiny bit more. I think that's how it's most comfortable for people to hold the bouquets. Now we've got a beautiful bouquet of these ecstasis carnations. Let's go on and make a bouquet using mixed flowers, but with this same technique. To start with, I've cleaned all of my flowers, taken off any foliages that are below the bind point, and any blooms that maybe are damaged, or the guard petals on the roses, we want to take all of those off. So I've got all my flowers nicely cleaned and all laid out in order. All of the hydrangeas are together, all of the roses are together, all of the foliages are together. Everything's in line so that I can kind of go down the line and place things in there in a pattern and not forget anything. We're going to start with this really pretty green hydrangea. And I'm going to add these carnations. And again, we're always placing the bloom to the right and the stem to the left. I love these protea. They give you such a cool texture because they're so fuzzy. And then maybe a bit of green. Take this piece of solal and tuck it in. Now I know this bouquet needs some movement, so this is a good time for me to add a little bit of wax flower. It's going to give a nice movement to the bouquet. And you can see every time I place a bloom, like that Mocara orchid that we placed in there, I'm placing the flower to the left and the stem to the right. And occasionally I need to turn it. Now this stalk gives you great movement too because it's got those long laterals. It's got this great bloom at the top. I'm going to put some Nerine lilies in there. This is one of my favorite flowers. It's a little bit of a unique bloom. When they're fully mature, they've got maybe 2 to 5 open blooms on them, and they're just so delicate and soft looking. They come in lighter pinks than this, and they come a little bit darker than this too, but they're one of my favorites. And look at that up against the protea. Just a great combination of textures. I'm going to want to add a little bit of wax flower because we do want to keep that movement in there. Maybe some roses. Now you'll see, maybe it looks like I'm putting the flowers in the wrong direction, but really, we know that we want our flowers to the left and our stems to the right. If I'm going to put it in towards the back of the bouquet, this is the direction I'm going to put it in. See that? Our spiral is staying intact. I'm going to add a touch of pittosporum because that'll give us a little bit of space between the blooms. Now this is going to be a pretty big bouquet. Got a lot of large flowers in there, like those hydrangeas. I'm going to put 3 of them in there. Maybe we need to add some stalk over here to bring that purple in. But these soft pink roses are gorgeous. So I'm just going down the line, adding a flower from one group, maybe a flower from a different group, or maybe 2 or 3 of one kind of flower. Like in this case, I kind of want 2 roses there to give it a little more impact. Now, up here you can see we've got a lot of green in this bouquet. So I'm actually going to place this Gerber daisy right into the hydrangea. I think it's stuck on some stalk. There we go. I'm going to pull from the bottom. It keeps that spiral stem placement because it's going into all of the other stems, so we still have that nice, beautiful turning motion. Put this other protea over here and add some green to this side. Okay, we are almost done with this bouquet. Let's add some finishing touches to it. Now remember, we can move our flowers in and out as needed. And once you get the hang of it, this is a really quick technique. All right, I think we're about done. Maybe a piece of wax flower over here. And we need to repeat that orchid. There we go. Okay, so we've used our spiral hand-tied technique. We're almost finished. We want to finish off the back of the bouquet. Right now, you can see we've got a lot of stems back there. So let's finish it off with a couple pieces of fatsia. I'm going to add a little bit of umbrella fern to it, just to give it a different texture. A couple Mocara leaves. We're still spiraling, Still using that same technique. In this case, the leaf is going to the left and the stem to the right. And then we want to add just a touch of flat fern. These little stinkers are hard to get in there. There we go. We do it once, do it again. So always put more than one kind of flower in there, or excuse me, always put more than one of each kind of flower in there. Same thing for your foliages. Now we've got this really gorgeous bouquet. Things are falling on the floor. We've got a gorgeous bouquet. We need to finish it off. So again, we've got a nice length of bind wire. I'm going to fold it in half and hold one side. I think this guy's a goner. Okay, hold one side and we're going to bind back behind all these blooms. Don't you love that that monstera leaf gave us such a huge size in this bouquet? Big is in. I'm at the end of the bouquet. I'm going to stick the ends of the bind wire through the loop and I'm going to pull back to tighten. Now I've got a gorgeous bouquet that's all ready to go. Needs to be finished with some ribbon and of course, like we said, cut the stems. Now I learned this technique when a young man came into my store and said, I saw this movie where a guy gave a girl flowers and he took the flowers in and she put them on the table and they stood up just by themselves. Well, I hadn't seen the movie. I had no idea what he was talking about. So immediately, like we do, I go to YouTube, I find out what he's talking about, and I learn how to make this type of bouquet. And he's right. When done correctly, if you cut the inner stems a little bit shorter than the outer stems, like this I think needs to be just a tiny bit shorter, you can get a bouquet that will stand up on its own. When you place it on a table, it stands beautifully. So this is how we make a spiral hand-tied bouquet, perfect for bridal bouquets or for bouquets that are going out of your shop that need to make a really big impression. Thanks for watching.